Hey everyone, welcome back to TOPHER Drives, where this week I have been living with this Patagonia Red 2024 Mercedes-AMG SL63. And if you know me, you know that the SL is a car that I have always really loved. This thing is so far up my alley. I love a proper grand tourer. I love a cozy car that can also be extremely ravenous and quick and loud and snarly. And that is exactly what this SL63 is. This is the R232 generation of the SL. The SL has been around since the 1950s, and we are now in the third model year of this current generation. I think it's absolutely stunning. And in today's video, we're going to show you what it's like to commute, to live with, to daily drive one of these new $200,000 Mercedes Grand Touring convertibles. So let's go over some basics about this R232 SL63 before we jump out on the road. We'll show you what it looks like inside and out, and then at the end I'll let you know what I really think about this SL. Well, actually I want to talk about the lineup first, because more of these have emerged since they came out in 2022. Every new SL is an AMG model. This is not the top of the line, believe it or not. The lineup starts with the SL43, which is a 4-cylinder. Very much out of character for Mercedes to have a 4-cylinder in an SL. I actually don't know that it has ever happened. Maybe way back. Did the 190 SL have a 4-cylinder? Or was that an inline 6? I don't know. If it was the 1950s. So the SL43 is a 4-cylinder. Then you can jump up to the SL55. That is the same engine that this car has, the SL63, which is right in front of us. And then the top of the line SL63E Performance, which is a plug-in hybrid that has 1,000 pound-feet of torque, a car that I didn't even know existed until I went on the configurator. But this SL63 is a nice sweet spot. It's an iconic name, an iconic badge, SL63. But what does that mean for this particular car? Well, we have a 4-liter M177 twin-turbo V8. It produces 577 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. This car has a 9-speed AMG speed shift automatic transmission, and it has 4MATIC all-wheel drive. And this is interesting because last week I was driving the new Aston Martin DB12, which has the exact same engine as this car. In fact, the same torque number at 590 pound-feet, slightly less horsepower from this SL, but it does still feel plenty zesty for the platform. This thing weighs about 4,300 pounds. Of course, with it being a convertible, it is going to weigh a bit more. And also, for the first time in a very long time, every SL comes standard with rear seats. And well, I don't know that you could really call these rear seats, but they are there if you have somebody very small you want to throw back here. I am currently using them to set my wind deflector on, so our drive today will be serene and comfortable, and hopefully you guys will be able to hear this glorious quad exhaust. This AMG exhaust, it does sound quite nice. Let's poke around this thing a bit. Let's talk about some essentials. The SL should be a grand tourer. In fact, it always kind of has been. So let's take a look at the trunk. This is a power trunk. Guess I didn't hold that long enough. It will power up for you, and you can see that, well, the trunk space is quite minimal. This is a very small area. Underneath the trunk floor, we do not have a spare, surprise, surprise, but we do have a bit of a toolkit. We've got a tow hook, and I suppose you could argue a bit more storage underneath. We've got a bag here for our wind deflector that does fold up nicely and fit into the trunk. It's always funny, power trunks that are so little and just, you know, easy to shut, but $200,000 car, it is what it is. The SL63 starts just under $190,000. This one as spec today, $204 grand. So it's actually not that crazy of a build. The Patagonia Red is a MANUFAKTUR color, which of course I always like to see, and I love red cars in general, so I'm a big fan of the way this looks. We have these optional 21-inch wheels wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, a 275 section on the front, and a 305 section on the back. Almost slipped up and said that number started with a 2, but no, we have some 305 meats on the back. Very sort of AMG GT-esque wheels on this SL, and honestly, design-wise, it looks a lot like an AMG GT. I remember when this came out a couple of years ago, I was like, okay, so they cut the roof off the current AMG GT, but that's not a bad thing. I think that this car is drop dead gorgeous. In fact, I don't know if that anyone's compared it yet. Maybe they have. I haven't read many articles on this car, but it almost kind of harkens back, in my eyes, to the W198, the OG SL, the 300 SL Roadster, kind of the curved body lines, the kind of oval shape overall of this thing. It is very first generation 300 SL. I think it's classy. I think it's everything a Mercedes SL should be, and they've absolutely knocked it out of the park. And that's a good thing that this one looks good, because usually Mercedes SLs stick around for anywhere from 10 to 20 years, depending on the generation. The R107 was in production for like almost 20 years. So once an SL comes out, you better get used to it for quite a while. Returning back to our spec discussion though, standard black leather interior. We do have some carbon fiber trim. Every SL63 comes with a Burmester sound system, though you are able to opt for an even better Burmester for $5,000. Another big departure from the years of recent SLs, we now have a soft top. There is no folding hardtop on this thing, and I've honestly seen a lot of manufacturers kind of switch to this. BMW has gone very soft top heavy, and so has Mercedes, and so has Audi. I think maybe some of the mechanicals with the folding hardtops, they just weren't worth it for these manufacturers to put in the development costs and then kind of get the bad rap on the used car market with, you know, just horror stories of these folding electric hardtops. Let's first get these door handles to pop out, which is my least favorite part about this car. Let's pop the hood and show you this M177 4-liter bi-turbo, as Mercedes calls it, V8. You no longer have a V12 option in any SL. There's no S600 anymore or anything like that. So this is the largest engine choice, and it looks quite nice here actually. This is a very attractive engine bay. This is a hand-built engine. It is signed by, oh no, this is the first time I've opened the hood on this car. Gökhan Kulecki is my Americanized way of saying that. If you're German, I apologize. You can make fun of me in the comments for that, but that is who built this engine. This is what's called a hot V turbo setup. You can see both of our turbos right here in the middle, and it means that we have essentially no turbo lag. This thing is an absolute boost monster. AMG badge here on the front bumper as opposed to the Mercedes emblem, but we have a large one of those here in the grille, so it's no matter. It was cool to drive the Aston Martin DB12 last week and kind of get to compare it to this SL, because the DB12 was about $100,000 more than this SL, and I haven't really seen the value in it a ton. I think this SL gets you about 95% of what you get in that Aston Martin DB12. So yeah, all right, let's step in. I hate these door handles. I'm gonna be just straight up about this. I was driving the new E-Class a couple weeks ago, and it reminded me how much I hate these stupid door handles that debuted on the current generation S-Class. They're nice for aerodynamics, they look very nice, but they feel so artificial in the hand. And it's really a shame, because these doors have a really nice, I hate to say the word solid, but I suppose it's a very bank vault-esque door, but it's spoiled by this handle. So, okay, that's should be my only rant in this entire video, because the rest of the car is quite magnificent. Let's start looking inside. Beautifully designed door panels, just a pretty standard black interior in this car. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get a light interior or some kind of fun spec here for the inside, but no matter. Carbon fiber trim does liven it up a bit. Of course, the Burmester speaker grills are always so pretty. Illuminated AMG door sills. For seats, these are pretty unapologetically SL looking, and our seat controls are mostly on the door. I already showed you guys that. Some of the seat controls are in the infotainment, and we'll get into that once we are on the road talking about comfort. I'm not even going to try getting back there because I know I won't fit. So let's just go ahead and jump into the driver's seat of this SL63, and we'll go ahead and fire it up. Everything comes to life. You can see our quite large vertical infotainment screen that has something that I haven't seen in many other cars, or actually really anything else, and that is the ability to adjust the angle of this. And when you think about the fact that the SL is only offered in convertible platform, it makes a lot of sense. So you can click this physical button here, and you can adjust the angle of your screen. So depending on the light, you know, if you've got light coming in from behind you, and you want to be able to tilt this in a way that you're able to see the screen a bit better. Usually I keep mine right about there. It's a good spot for me. But I just think that's kind of a cool, clever touch that they've added for this. You know, if you're going to integrate a screen, you may as well make as much adjustment as possible. Okay, there's actually another thing I don't like about this car, and that is the way you operate the top. Now, this is all in the screen, and I understand the want for simplicity in the cabin here. You know, there are really no physical buttons anywhere, apart from like the window switches and the stop-start button to start the car. But to put the roof up, you have to hold your finger on this infotainment screen, and it's, of course, the same way to put the top down. Now, this generally isn't a problem if it isn't hot out, but as you guys know, infotainment screens get really hot. So it's been a really hot week in Michigan, and I have found myself burning my finger holding this, waiting for it to go up. So I don't know if there's a better way to do that in here, but I found that you have to hold the button for this to be able to do anything. Another way I found to operate the top, and this is really only beneficial if you're outside of the car and you're walking up to it, is you can actually use your key fob. You can hold this unlock button, and as you're walking up to the car, it will lower the roof for you. Actually, the car has to be locked. And you can hold this, and it will lower the top. So you can kind of just use this as a remote control. So this is what I've been doing. Like the second half of the week here, I've been avoiding using the infotainment, and I've just been using the key. So that's another solution if you don't want to use your infotainment, but sometimes you don't really have a choice. That'll also precondition the cabin, so you can see my cooled seat came on to give me a bit of ventilation. I'll turn that off today for audio purposes. Ergonomically, everything in here works pretty well. I mean, along with being able to adjust the angle of that infotainment, you've got some hideaway cup holders and a spot for a wireless charger, some USB-C ports, a little bit of a wrist rest here I mean, you can't really, I suppose it's more of a forearm rest to use the infotainment. Split folding armrest, which actually has a pretty decent console underneath it, and a pretty open passenger compartment as well. You can see that dash is set pretty far in, so Emily's had plenty of room over there for herself this week. Lots of other Mercedes stuff going on in here. You guys know this pretty well by now. The infotainment, the cluster, these drive mode buttons, they all kind of work the same as every other AMG does. So we'll talk a bit about that, but let's go ahead and get on the road and show you what this SL63 is like to drive. Column shifter, I love it. Mercedes does it the best, and it really just adds to that luxury experience. Here's our parking cameras. You can see 360 cam as well as a very high quality reverse camera. Front camera pops up when you put it into drive. You can see my little puddle of air conditioning right there, about to drive over it. And I don't think we're going to need the earmuffs today. I've got the wind deflector up in the back. We can put all of our windows up, and it's not quite as quiet as the Lexus LC500, but it's a pretty close contender. Nobody really does convertibles as quiet as Lexus, but Mercedes gets close. I think as far as changing settings, setting drive modes, you know, all of the different exhaust modes, suspension, everything, Mercedes does it best. And the reason is it's all very easily accessible in the steering wheel. This is the same for any AMG car, but they give you these little buttons on the lower part of the steering wheel. Hold on. I'm going to put all four of our windows up here. You can do that with the back two switches if your driver switch panel is toggled to the all mode, which mine is right now. You can see even in a relaxed driving setting, the SL63 does make quite a good noise. And you saw me use one of these switches down here to switch my exhaust into loud mode. Smooth shifts from this 9-speed automatic transmission. Really progressive throttle response. and a nice noise from that 4-liter. Okay, I'm going to use my little switch down here to put myself into my individual drive mode. This is how I've been driving the car. Drivetrain in race, everything else in comfort, and my gearbox set to manual. I'm just going to let you guys listen to the noises that this thing makes. Nearly took out a bird there. You guys hear that turbo whistle? Like, come on! Oh my goodness. And all of these theatrics have contributed to my 12 mpg that I've gotten this week. This car is only rated at about 14, I want to say, city, 21 highway. So the 12 mpg shouldn't be too surprising to you all. It's so quick. I mean, it has going on like 100 horsepower less than that Aston Martin DB12, but I can't tell. It feels just about as fast. I'm so entertained by the exhaust note. My goodness. All right, let's do a race start. I'm going to put this into Sport Plus, the sportiest setting. That will default my gear changes into automatic, which is what you want for a race start. Pretty simple. Full left foot brake, full right foot on the accelerator, and release brake. Listen to that. Not only does it sound like some crazy aftermarket two-step, but it tensions the seat belt. It holds you in. Like when you're at Cedar Point and you put the lap belt down and it latches down, and it's like the Top Thrill Dragster. My goodness. Oh, all right. We're gonna go back into individual. I went into ice mode accidentally there. One more little pull here. Oh my goodness. This car is so entertaining, and I was thinking earlier about the fact that now every SL is an AMG, and obviously I have no problem with the fact that an SL can be rowdy and entertaining like this, but it's a little sad to think that there's not really an old man SL anymore. There's no like, my goodness, there's no, okay, let's go back into comfort. There's no like very like quiet and reserved SL500 or SL600 that still gets you the V8 but not the AMG treatment. I have a feeling that SL43 is probably pretty similar to the CLA and the GLA that I was driving earlier. I mean, they are still quite rowdy because they're AMG cars at the end of the day. So I don't know that I fully agree with the decision to go full AMG for the SL lineup, but it is what it is, and I am thoroughly enjoying this SL63. Really smooth and progressive passing power. The torque curve on this car is just glorious. I think this, honestly, drives a lot better than that DB12 as far as just, you know, going about your daily business. And by that I mean the throttle response is just really dialed in on this car. Reaching highway speeds, I don't have to shout at you guys, with all windows up plus the wind deflector. I'm getting just the smallest amount of buffeting, which won't be a problem for us. Okay, we've been entertained by the SL63. Now let's talk about what it's like to actually drive this car. 90% of the time, you're just going to be doing stuff like this, or at least most people are. So what's it like to just sit on the highway? Well, this car has a 4-corner adaptive suspension. We're in comfort mode right now. We're in its softest setting, and it is quite soft. I mean, going down the highway in this car, it's really forgiving. The most unforgiving part are these 21-inch wheels, but you don't really notice that when you're floating down a pretty smooth highway like I'm doing right now. If you want to adjust your seating position, of course, all of your basic controls are here on the door panel, but if you want to adjust your lumbar or your bolsters or anything like that, anything beyond what they're able to integrate into this switch here, you do have to go into the infotainment. Now, I've made this slightly easier for myself by adding it as a shortcut here. Seat comfort, you can click lumbar and you can adjust that on the fly, and it does react quite quickly. You could argue that you could get the muscle memory down, be able to swipe down and select that with no problem. Obviously, I don't love that it's in the infotainment, and I've just bumped my heated settings there. You can adjust your seat bolsters here all the way up to 10. I've just been leaving mine, you know, kind of from 0 to 3 this week. But the actual seat itself is quite supportive. We're going to exit right here. And I have driven this car over 200 miles this week, and I haven't really found myself getting beat up from this seat. So Mercedes has done a good job making this quite supportive. Driver's compartment. Now, this is actually quite similar to the seating arrangement of the Aston Martin DB12, a quite high center console area. The dashboard does kind of intrude into your driver's compartment here, so your right knee does suffer a bit from that. I'm 5'11", about 150 pounds, and I fit with no problem in this car. I think you could be a little bit bigger than me and you would really have no problem. Especially with height, this windshield does stick up quite far. And I like that for a couple of reasons. It means tall people can drive this car more easily, but also, I think with the design of this, your wind intrusion is mitigated a bit more than a car that has a shorter windscreen. And I'll tell you what, this has some cool German stuff. Now, this is gonna sound really silly, but I was driving this at night for the Winding Road night drive, and I was using the cruise control, which has a really nice steering assist system, which I'll show you right now. And it is capable of performing its own lane changes, which it's gonna do right now without my hands on the wheel. At nighttime, this will project an arrow out onto the street to show other people where you're changing lanes to. So you put your turn signal on and the car projects an arrow into the other lane. I hope it shows up on camera. I'll put a little clip in from the night drive. It's properly cool stuff, and I'm a big fan of some of the technology that they have in this car. Okay, let's go back into my individual mode because we have to make some noise. Ooh, IS 500. That makes a good noise. I wanted to hear that. Okay. Let's get our windows down here. Why not? Yes. I love when I can be an absolute menace in cars at the flick of a switch and immediately back into comfort, and it's like nothing ever happened. That is the best part about this car, and Mercedes has definitely delivered on their mission with this thing to be very Jekyll and Hyde-esque. Of course, you can heat and cool your seat at the same time in this car, and you also have the air scarf setting, which means if you're out on a cold evening in this car, you have these little vents at the back of the seats right below the headrest that blow warm air onto your neck, hence the term air scarf, which does make this car very nice to drive in the fall time. It's absolutely sensational. I'm a big kind of like advocate for, if you have a convertible, you should have your top down unless it's raining. I mean, you're probably not driving your convertible in the snow in the winter time. But if you are, I mean, shoot, there's a guy around here that drives his S2000 year-round, and he drives with the roof down year-round. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is I try to drive with the top down as much as possible, so that certainly helps the case here, being able to blow some warm air on yourself. As you cruise into downtown and as I give you guys my final thoughts, let's test out this bass Burmester sound system here in this SL63. I've done my due diligence today, and I actually already have the song queued up. To adjust volume, you've got a slider down here below the infotainment, or you have a slider here on the steering wheel that you can use. Just muted it on accident. Stop it. Unmute, please. See, that's the thing with these haptic touch controls. Sometimes you do what you don't want to do. I see we are blocking the road today to get into the gas station. Nice. There, pretty solid performance here from this Burmester, and I think it's nice that no matter what, every SL63 does get a Burmester. What they do nicely is they're able to be loud without being really harsh on your ears. You can turn this Burmester up to, you know, 3/4, and you can listen to music loudly and crisply. We drove an SL63 in California 2 years ago. It was a yellow 2022 car. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I want to say that car had the optional system, because I do remember it having a bit more power, and that system was excellent. Charlie gave it an S tier on his DM sound test, but this is not too far below. I mean, this does pretty much everything I wanted to do for a convertible. I also think it's important to show you guys what these sound systems sound like with the top down, because a lot of the times these manufacturers put different, I don't know, tune, is tune the right word? They put a different sound tune on these systems, you know, depending on if you're riding with the top up or the top down. But driving this thing into a city setting, I mean, shoot, I can stick these windows down too. What I love so much is you can drive this car with all the windows down with the wind deflector up at 40 miles an hour, and I have like no wind buffeting in here. And Mercedes has had like 70 years to get this right. I'm actually surprised with saying the M word in here, it hasn't triggered the "Hey Mercedes" function of this.
How can I?
What?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again, please?
I asked her something the other day. What does AMG stand for? She's quite good at this.
AMG is an abbreviation for Alfred Melcher Großausbau. Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher are the two founders, and Großausbau is where the company was located.
See, I love that. That's the sort of thing, and she hasn't been as chatty as she's been in other cars. That is an excellent M3 track car over there. Get this thing up close to the curb. You are able to manually turn on your parking cameras there. Ooh, can I reach?
Welcome.
Yes, I can. Okay, I got it. Really nice display with that 360 cam and an up close look at your front and rear bumpers there. Driving in the structural, it'll also give me a chance to show you guys the ambient lighting in this SL63. You guys know Mercedes does not play around, and oh my goodness, I'm just remembering, I forgot to mention one of my favorite features of this car, and that is the 2.5 degrees of rear wheel steering you get in this car. It took me maneuvering around the structure to remember that. And I got in this car the day it got dropped off. I was driving it around and I was like, this really feels like it has rear wheel steering. Like, it's so precise, as we try not to get run over by a Ford F-150. It's so precise in settings like this. And it is, you know, a somewhat sizable car, 4,300 pounds. It is a large Grand Tourer. All right, so let's try and sum this up here before we get to the roof of the structure. I've mentioned a couple times in this video that every trim of the SL in 2024 is an AMG. And while I don't like this as far as you being forced into an AMG if you want an SL, and if you're just simply not interested in going fast, you just want an SL for its Grand Touring purposes, you know, it's sad that you have to pay the extra amount of money to get the SL, but what they've done with this car is they've made it so comfortable in a daily driving setting that I can put this in comfort, the exhaust in quiet. I can adjust the lumbar on my seat. It's so quiet in here that, you know, I kind of forget that I'm driving an AMG, and that is exactly how this should be. And oh my goodness, they are power washing the top of the structure. Can I get through this right now? Oh yes, I can. I guess what I'm trying to say is this does a good job of not necessarily showing its true colors as an AMG if you don't want it to. And that's important for an SL. It's just a shame that you have to pay like $150,000 to get into a V8 powered SL at this point. Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say? I feel like I may not be explaining it the best. I feel like there should still be a non-AMG SL, but I don't think that that takes from the existence of this SL and the magnificent tuning and calibration that has gone into this car in making it so comfortable. I appreciate this car as a whole, and I think it's fantastic, but I do wish that we had a little bit more choice in the SL lineup. And of course, I imagine this was some kind of a business decision for Mercedes that just showed that, hey, our customers are no longer really buying non-AMG SLs, so that may have just, you know, that's just the way that it has to be. But I love this car. I think it's fantastic. I think it's drop dead gorgeous. It's comfortable to sit in. Elbow comfiness is nice. We have soft surfaces for both elbows. They have a nice rubbery feel to them. And overall this week, I have not been uncomfortable in this car. It took us to lunch. It took us to dinner, you know, and it's been a really good car this week. So no real complaints with this SL63. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. I feel like there's probably some more that I forgot to cover with this thing, but you all can always ask me questions in the comments. You know that if I left anything out. So that will just about wrap it up for us today with the SL63 AMG. Drop dead gorgeous. Love this Patagonia red. And man, it looks good under this golden hour lighting too. What do you think? What would you have? Which SL would you choose? And what is your favorite generation of SL? I mean, they're all excellent in their own way. Tedward just posted a video of a 5-speed manual R129 the other day. That was an excellent watch. So it's been cool to see the progression of this car. It's been cool to see how long this has been in production since the 1950s, and they are still going pretty strong. So I hope the SL sticks around, and I hope it continues to be as excellent as this here SL63. So again, thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.